I'm Azusa, and this is Alex. Okay. So it all began in 2011. We met at the Royal College of Art on the Design Products course. We both came from different backgrounds of art and architecture. So the problem was that we didn't really know how to design, but we were really ambitious, and we were determined to work with high-end luxury brands. But we started working together, and we called ourselves Studio Swine, which was our first big mistake. We made some strange things like this called Hair Hut, which is an African hut made out of human hair. And no one really got why we were doing this. And we kind of became the college laughingstock, but we were proud of it. And then we made a project called Sea Chair, and we became really good at collecting plastic at the beach, but then we didn't quite get to making a chair in the end, so we failed at that.
So we graduated in London, which has the most amount of design graduates, and they're actually really good. And at the end of very unsuccessful days in London, we'd walk along the canal, and we'd decided that either we had to get much better or we had to leave London. So we chose Sao Paulo, and we decided we're going to go to Sao Paulo, we're going to do it. So I worked really hard. We contacted everyone, British Council, UK Trade and Industry, endless residencies, anyone that we could think of that might be Brazilian or know a Brazilian. And all we'd ever hear is no. And when we didn't hear no, we wouldn't get a response. So we decided we've got to just take a risk and go for it. Otherwise it will never happen.
Yeah, so we really believed in going to Sao Paulo, so we flew there anyway, but we didn't know anyone or we didn't have any opportunities there. And we got there, we stayed in the cheapest, smelliest hostel in town. And because the smell was so awful, we just kind of had to go out of the hostel and walk around the city for the whole day. But eventually, we managed to find this lovely apartment on Craigslist. It was totally unfurnished, and it didn't have any fridge or bed or cooker. But it did have 2 swimming pools, so we decided we'll take it. So during the day, we had nothing much to do because we didn't have any opportunities. So we kind of walked around the streets, wandered around, which is a very odd thing to do in São Paulo because it's a very much of a car city, and you don't really see people walking around. And if it's not blistering hot weather, it's torrential rain. But we just decided to walk there everywhere, every day, everywhere anyway. And we started to observe some very interesting things that were happening on the streets. So we kept a documentation of it called Daily Postcard from Brazil, and we documented lots of different interesting things that was happening on the street. And we're really struck by how resourceful people were on the street. And people from all over Brazil come to Sao Paulo to make a living on the street. And one particular thing that was really interesting and exciting for us was the catadores who go around the streets and collect recyclable goods on the street. So we followed them, we kind of studied them, we looked at what they were collecting, how they were collecting it, and we kind of analyzed what they were doing. And it was quite interesting because the way that they were not fixed in one position, but they were nomadic, it kind of made us realize to be able to make our work, we don't have to have a gallery or a workshop to work in. So taking things that we can find on the street and using it to make things for the street, which we called the new model of manufacturing.
So we looked around us and we found that we needed materials that were free, and there was a lot of cans, a lot of aluminium. So we decided to make a furnace to melt it, which involved a lot of trial and error. And we designed a furnace, went to a scrapyard and got the materials, and just went to a local car garage and got them to weld it up for us. And then we needed a fuel that's plentiful and free, so we used cooking oil from street vendors that were frying food. We needed molds, and we couldn't have cast iron molds, so we chose to borrow sand from all the building sites around the city, and we did lots of experiments, and they're pretty ugly lumps of metal, but each time we could throw them back in, remelt them, and just go again, and a bit less uglier, but still pretty ugly. And we're getting better at casting, and we were working with a fantastic gallery at this stage that we'd managed to convince into our crazy idea, Collegivo Morja Madre, and yeah, we made this collection that was full of mistakes, but we realized that the mistakes was what actually made the furniture different from normal aluminium furniture. So it's all made from items that we cast, that we found on the streets, and then we called it Can City. And we made more refined pieces that were inspired by things that we shadows, Sao Paulo collection. Nobody was recycling bottles. We've got a lot tonight, actually. So we re-blew them into these cactus-like bulbs. And there's this really weird moment where the street vendors that were at the traffic light selling papers were actually selling papers with the story of our project in it. So it was this kind of amazing moment where this, yeah.
So we always really believed in using human hair as materials, and we've always thought, you know, it's a great idea, we need to return to it. So we kept on visiting the human hair supermarket in Dalston and kind of experimenting with it. And we made some glasses, and a gallerist from Hong Kong called Pa Lam really liked them. And amazingly, we got to meet her. And so we told her our dream, which is one day we'd like to trace the hair back to its origin in China. And miraculously, she invited us out to China to look at the biggest human hair market in the world, which is in Shandong province.
And it's this really backwater town. There's very little going on, except it does have the biggest hair market. And we'd get there, and these bikers start arriving, and they have rabbit skins on the front of their handlebars, and then they have human hair on the back. And it was very Mad Max. And but they ended up being really friendly. But then, in the meantime, we were thinking, with this awful epiphany, which we were like, in bed, pillow talk, we were saying, like, oh my God, we've got the best opportunity that we've ever dreamed of. And we're going to screw it up with this stupid project about human hair. We're going to go to the most luxury design fair, and how can we make anything that's not going to make people kind of feel repulsed? So it's like this incredible fear of failure, and we thought, you know, we're never going to have another opportunity like this. So it really pushed us to, like, kind of the fear of failure really pushed us, basically, and we made this film that was quite inspired by Mad Max, actually, with a biker at the beginning. And we were sanding every day, making our little parquet panels, trying to transform this material into something desirable. And we work all around the world, but we always end up covered in dust on the floor sanding. So we are like international sanders. And the collection was like based on Shanghai Deco. And it ended up going to Basel, and New York Times said it was their favorite in show, which is very exciting for us.
So CJ was always self-initiated because we always failed to get funding. But we started off by collecting plastic on the beach and making our own furnace so we can experiment with melting the plastic. We kind of made these tiny blobs, which looked like seagull poo. But we became very good at handling plastic because we understood more about the material. And we've always dreamt of going to the Jaya, which is this converging current in the middle of the ocean where they collect plastic. But we couldn't do that because it was miles away, so thousands of miles away. So we decided to go out with a fisherman to collect plastic and make a chair. But we were always determined to go out to the Jaya, and we approached absolutely everyone, but we failed to get any funding still. So we decided to launch a Kickstarter campaign, which was successful, and that took us to the North Atlantic Gaia for 8 days. And we designed these self-sufficient 3D, well, it's like a hand-operated 3D printing thing which uses the sun's energy to melt and extrude plastic onto the bed, and we made it so that we can flat pack it into our luggage.
And so we went out to the Azores, and we mounted this contraption on the front of the Sea Dragon, this amazing sailing boat that's dedicated to scientific research. And yeah, we were navigating and doing all the filling out the captain's log and trawling for plastic and getting these little fragments and filling our machine. And again, it still looked like seagull poo, but it was a bit nicer, and we got all these experiments had enabled us to really understand the material. And if we'd got funding earlier, we probably would have worked with somebody that really had equipment to melt plastic, and we never would have made all these mistakes and all these discoveries in doing so. And so after years of making really ugly lumps, we got much better at it, and we could make something more like, this is inspired by turtle shells from South Pacific, and coral, and abalone shell and gems. And so we really believe that we really, really want to do something new and something extraordinary. And if you want to do that, then you have to really embrace failure, because it's quite inevitable. Because if it was easy, it would have been done already. So we really believe in keep trying and keep failing. Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.